So we've been to lots of conferences and trade shows in the travel industry for some time, and it's kind of struck me that when you go to these shows, there are really just two things that people talk about: flights and hotels, transportation and accommodation. And it makes perfect sense. Travel is the world's largest vertical, and transportation and accommodation represent the most revenue within this industry. So of course, this is what people are going to talk about. This is what matters to the industry. But what matters to travelers? Like, what do they think about? Like, when you're in that place where you're beginning to fantasize about that trip, what do you think about? You think about this? Or do you think about this? How do travelers memorialize their trips? What do they remember? What do they take photos of? They take photos of this? Actually, it's kind of interesting. Some people apparently do take photos of this, but no, but seriously, right? Do you take photos of this? Or do you take photos of this? Wow, right? We know. We all know the answer. All you have to do is go look on Instagram and you can see what people take photos of, what's really important to them. We've been saying since the beginning of Arival, this is the best part of travel. We've actually done quite a bit of research, and I've got data and all that stuff behind it now to support this. But I don't need to show you charts and graphs. This is all what we know. So tours, activities, attractions, this is the best part of travel. This is what you represent. But it's also different from the rest of travel. So the way in which you have to serve and reach travelers, it's different from hotels and airlines. The way in which travelers think about what they're going to do in destination is completely different from how they think about flights and hotels. The way I purchase my attraction tickets is totally different from how I book my flights. Likewise, if I'm shopping for or planning a diving excursion, very different from how I think about hotels. So we believe from the very beginning, this sector, this industry, if we can call ourselves that, we needed a forum, an event. We need something to bring this community together, to have insights and content and debate and discussion around the issues and the trends that were relevant to you, not to airlines, not to hotels. So when we began hatching this idea, we talked to a lot of experienced people in the travel industry and in events and so forth to get feedback. And we encountered some doubts. So there were some people who really asked, is this even an industry? So many different, diverse businesses. Is it really an industry? One word we heard quite a bit was fragmented. It's too fragmented. So many small, different businesses. Fragmented is an interesting word. I looked it up. It means existing or functioning as though broken into separate parts, disorganized, disunified. It's kind of interesting as we were preparing for the second Arival. I was preparing for this talk. I'm looking through all the companies who were attending, looking at all of the hundreds of photos that all of you submitted. Oh, it doesn't seem fragmented to me. When I look out here, I see more than 1,000 people sitting together. I don't see disunity. This looks like unity to me. However, it's a valid question. What are we? Are we an industry? What binds us together? So when I'm confronted with difficult questions like this, I like to go to numbers, right? That's a great place to start. So I've got 5 numbers I want to share with you, which I think will help us give some shape, some understanding to our industry. So first number, in fact, is 5. There are 5 major subsegments of our in-destination sector: tours, activities, events, attractions, ground transportation, which is organized, so not like taxi or public transportation. Basically anything that a traveler does when they get there, except for going out to dinner or doing some shopping independently. 104. there are 104 distinct types of businesses within those 5 categories. We know because we counted them all. I'm not going to read them all to you. However, as soon as we finished this exercise, we realized how ridiculous this effort was, because I think a couple days later, we had a registration from a company we didn't have a category for. Brett and James, forged axe throwing from Whistler, Canada. Could you guys stand up? So first of all, welcome.
Thank you.
So I had never heard of axe throwing before you guys registered.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
I've never thrown an axe.
Oh, you got it? Yeah, when you come to Whistler, Douglas, we'll hook you up.
But I've done some research. So I found this photo. So it looks like either something really exciting is about to happen.
Yeah, that's the start of league right there. That's the start of competition. Look how stoked they are. That's what it's all about.
All right, so maybe when I'm in Whistler, we'll swing by. I think it's like darts, right? Something, okay?
Oh, it's way better than darts, Douglas. We will kick it up to 11 with you, all right? We'll show you the party of your life. Those guys don't even know what's about to hit them.
Awesome. Okay, now you got to sit down. Thanks, guys. Thank you. Okay, so the next number, 125,000. There are 125, actually at least 125,000 of these businesses all over the world. I believe that number is ridiculously low because it's so hard to find all of these small businesses and entrepreneurs and sole proprietors. So I think the number is probably twice that size. Next number is 160 billion. Travelers will spend $160 billion on tours, activities, events, attractions, ground transportation this year. That 160 billion brings us to 3, or more precisely, third. This sector is the 3rd largest sector in the world's largest vertical because of that 160 billion. So when I look at all those numbers, I don't think I see fragmented. I see more than 1,000 people representing nearly 600 companies and more than 100 different types of businesses. I see the best part of travel. So let's look a little bit into who's here, who's a part of our community. So we have more than 1,000 people. Actually, I just learned we had 1,100 people register yesterday. Amazing. Within just 2 years, it's incredible. So yeah, I think there is a community here for sure. Nearly 600 companies and almost 50 countries represented around the world. So who is here? What are the types of companies? Most of you are what we call suppliers. You are operators of tours, activities, attractions. You put on events. But we also have hundreds of people here from the world of technology and distribution, companies that provide the tech that powers your companies, or companies that want to access your product and sell to their customers. We also have other people here who are interested in the sector, analysts and media and marketing experts who will be leading some of your workshops. We have people here from all over the world, and it's quite humbling to see. For example, we have Michelle Body, I'm going to pronounce this right, and Stefan Body from New Zealand, all the way. And I was struck as the name of your company, Glowing Adventures, so I looked into this a bit. So apparently you take people into these caves which are inhabited by these incredible glowworms. I had never even heard of them. What is it like to stand in those caves?
Well, it's quite a surreal experience, and it's like under the night sky all year round. And our cave tours are eco tours, so there's no footpaths, so it's real caving and private kind of tours.
Oh, it's amazing. I mean, it looks spectacular, so I need to make a trip to New Zealand, I think.
Absolutely.
So thank you so much for making the trip. Thank you. So something else that I've got to do, this is important for every conference, like we have to attract a lot of big shots, a lot of important people, so we have to say, how many CEOs and owners and so forth. And that's important for you too, because you are here to make important decisions. You want to talk to people that matter, so it's important for you as well as for us. So you can see all of the titles and so forth that we have up on the screen. But for me, what I like the most is this category at the bottom is Other. There are some really interesting titles which I'm just always curious about. So, for example, we have an admiral here, Admiral Heather Henderson, all the way from Gone Sailing Adventures, Toronto, Canada. Welcome.
Good morning.
So, Admiral is the most senior position in the Navy.
Yes, it is.
So you've also got your captain with you, I see.
Yes, I brought my captain. I don't travel without him.
Okay.
I started out as a stowaway. I showed up one day on the boat and refused to leave.
Okay.
I then got promoted by the captain to galley wench, and I felt pretty good about that. Then came around that we needed new uniforms. I ordered the uniforms. I also had to order name tags. So I figured I might as well be admiral.
So that also means since you're the admiral and he's the captain, he's got to follow all your commands, right?
He does.
He does? That was not planned, but welcome.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Yeah, thank you. It's great to have you. So we also have from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, somebody who calls himself a chief fly guy, Hal Boyle from Triad Eco Adventures.
Good morning.
Good morning. I'm just curious, what does a chief fly guy do?
Well, it's kind of like you. You're always doing things on the fly, and we encourage that of our tour guides, so I've got to keep it organized.
Awesome. And so you're from North Carolina. How were you severely impacted by Florence?
We're in the middle of the state, so we thought about doing some raft rides down to Wilmington, but I'm here to enjoy the desert.
Great. Well, we're thrilled you're here.
Thank you.
So we've got one more person that I want to highlight because this title it's quite something. I'm going to see if I can remember it all. So he is head tour guide, accountant, bean counter, head of marketing, janitor, head of maintenance, and he also won the second grade spelling bee. John Laverne from Bulldog Adventures from Charleston, South Carolina.
John Douglas Laverne, actually. Yes, Douglas.
Well, it's nice to meet you. You must be very proud, and your family, about that accomplishment in second grade.
It was huge. It impacted my entire life, and now I'm, a tour guide.
And now look at you.
Yeah. And I don't know how to spell. In fact, my spell checker's here. Catherine Wilhoy. Yeah.
So one of the things that was actually quite interesting to learn about your company is, part of your mission is to support local historical sites and institutions, and so you contribute funds to them. How much money have you raised for local sites in Charleston since the founding of Bulldog Tours?
$3.7 million in 17 years.
Wow.
Like sustainable tourism.
Awesome.
Works well. Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's great. Great. Thank you. Well, we're thrilled to have you. Wish I could do this with everybody, but we're already 30 minutes behind schedule. But I look forward to meeting as many of you as possible over the next 3.5 days. But this is part of why we started Arival. It's incredible to see this community and how many people have come together. But there's more to this. I think there's more to why so many of us have gotten together in such a short amount of time. For example, here's another number. 600 million, a little bit more than a dozen companies since the beginning of just 2017 have raised more than $600 million in venture capital to create new technologies or online tours and activities selling and so forth. So there's got to be something going on that's driving this interest, this excitement around this sector. So I want to walk through a few of these things. It's going to drive a lot of our conversation over the next 3.5 days. So first, we are not just the fastest growing sector of travel, not just the largest, the third largest, but we're also the fastest growing sector of travel. And we may even be one of the fastest growing industries, period. Now, I'm not just saying that like to make us all feel good. I'm not going to use, Silicon Valley lingo like the experience economy or something. I mean, I think one economy is absolutely plenty. But there are just very fundamental demographic trends that are driving this. And it's all backed by research. So first, boomers. You have this large generation of older travelers. They're more affluent. The kids have left the house. They've already bought themselves everything. So they're going to spend that money on travel and experiences and things to do. Then you have this rising generation of younger millennials and Gen Z. Their parents, by the way, mostly boomers, have already bought them everything as well. So what are they going to do? They're going to travel. They're going to experience things. We already see this generation is traveling more than any other generation ever. It's extraordinary. Reinvention. So we just learned about this with our 104 number and the company that I had never heard of, or the whole category that I had never heard of. The capacity of this sector of travel to reinvent itself, to create entirely new types of experiences is extraordinary. We're going to hear from several of these companies over the next few days. Many of you already here in this room. Digital. So I am not going to stand up here and say, yes, online and mobile and digital is important. You're all here. I think you already know that. But I do want to say this. This is not a future thing. We are in the middle of it right now. We are at this incredible point in this industry where so much is happening. Let me give you an example. Today, a little bit more than half of all travel is booked online, according to Focusrite. It's taken the travel industry some 2 decades to get there. Where is tours and activities and attractions? We're a bit behind, about 10 to 15 years or so. However, it's not going to take us 2 decades. Within the next 2 to 3 years, we're already going to see extraordinary changes. And any numbers that you might have seen in some research report from a year or 2 ago are already completely out of date. We know absolutely how your travelers, how your customers, they are looking for you, how they are finding you, how they want to book with you. It's very clear. This is why we have invested so much to develop 20 workshops on all things digital. The next is 70. There are about 70 distribution companies here. Companies that want to access your product and resell it to their customers. The fastest growing channel within distribution today for our industry is online travel agencies. This is a really big deal. There are a lot of them. They've raised a lot of money in some cases. They've acquired reservation systems. They have big plans. This raises really big questions for all of us. How should you work with them? How many should you work with? Which ones should you work with? Should you work with them at all? How much should it cost? What brands will your customers remember? Will they remember your brand or their brand? Some really big questions before all of us today. We're going to dig into a few of them shortly with the president of the largest online travel agency within our sector. Next. So I know that all of us are here because we want to grow our business. We want to transform. We want to see what's next and be there. But for many destinations, especially some of the most popular in Europe and elsewhere, they're dealing with a very different problem. They already have too many visitors, too many tourists. They're confronted with how do they manage that flow and grow tourism responsibly for businesses, for tourists, for the destinations. Now, we're not going to solve this problem in the next 3 days, but I guarantee you this. Decisions will be made about these issues. The question is, will all of you play a role? Will you have a voice? This is where the power of an industry comes together. The voices of many have much more influence than the voices of just one. So I believe we are an industry. We are the in-destination industry. We're all bound by really 2 basic things. I mean, you could ask, like, what does Cedar Fair Entertainment have to do with Samurai Joe Okada from Kyoto? 2 totally different things, but there are 2 very basic things we all share. 1, we're all responsible for delivering amazing in-destination experiences to travelers. And 2, we're all confronted with the same challenge. Our marketplace is changing, our customers are changing, our customers' expectation of amazing is changing. So what are we going to do? Who are you going to become? Yes, I know you're a kayak tour company, but that kayak tour company also needs to be a digital marketing agency. That dive tour company should be an Instagram influencer. That walking tour company should be able to lead workshops on SEO and SEM. That amusement park company is a guest loyalty program. That bike tour company should consider getting into culinary tourism. Ladies and gentlemen, we have a lot to talk about and a lot to do over the next few days. So welcome to the in-destination industry. Welcome to the best part of travel and the biggest opportunity. This is your Arival. Welcome.